What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Trade Talk Tuesday. Now, I want you guys in the next week to try and come up with your best trade ideas and post them in the comment section of this video so that Eric can dissect them. Now, we didn't have a ton of trade ideas for this video. I know Eric had a lot more. Shout out to Eric for a good Trade Talk Tuesday video last week. This one, I'm kind of just going to do like a mailbag. I'm not going to exactly do it how Eric did it, but I will respond to some of your guys' trade ideas, and I just want you guys to try and get creative, try and come up with some different concepts, some different ideas that maybe nobody has ever thought of, because this is a very tough offseason in terms of trade flexibility. We do have assets in terms of potentially the full mid-level exception that we haven't had in years past. We do have a traded player exception of $7 million, but we don't have middling contracts to trade to match salary, right? I'm assuming we're not going to move CJ, we're not going to move Dame, we're not going to move Nurkic. Other than those three guys, the only contract over $6 million a year is Trevor Ariza's $12.8 million a year. So if you're talking about trading for a guy who's making like above $15 million, who's making upwards of $20 million, it's hard to match that guy's salary, since if you trade for a guy that's making $20 million, you have to trade out $16 million. So if you trade Trevor Ariza, you have to add somebody to that, and that is tough, you know, if you don't want to necessarily include one of the young guys for whoever you're trading for. So just in terms of matching salary in a trade this offseason, it is pretty tough. So we got to get creative. Olshey has to get creative. And you guys, I want you guys to get creative with your trade ideas down in the comment section below. I'm looking forward to reading them in the next week, and then I'll look forward to Eric breaking them down next week, because if you haven't been paying attention, each week me and Eric are going to trade off doing mailbags and trade talk videos. So you had Barry here saying, so basically you just want them to make no trades then, and my response is kind of what I've already said. It's tough to make trades with the position we are going into this offseason. There's not a lot of players on the market, and then I want us to make the right trade, not just put together a trade for Aaron Gordon that I don't think would help the team at all. So anyway, website's launching in the next week. Very excited for that. We will discuss some trade stuff on the website as well, so you guys will be loaded with content whenever that website launches. I'm very excited for that, so make sure you stay tuned with this channel for updates on that. And let's jump into the rest of the trade talk comments. So we got something from the Brennanator. The easiest way to make this look best on the screen is to put it there. He says, I got a couple trades for you. Let me know what you think. He says, trade 1, Rockets receive Hassan Whiteside in a sign and trade, and the Blazers receive Robert Covington and a first-round pick. This would require the Rockets wanting to sign Hassan Whiteside for about $10 million or so. Why would the Rockets want Hassan Whiteside? They literally just traded away a better version of Hassan Whiteside and Clint Capella so they could go small. They value three-point shooting tremendously. So why would they want Hassan Whiteside, especially at the expense of a 3-and-D wing, which is all they've tried to put around Westbrook and Harden? They wouldn't do Robert Covington for Whiteside in a first, so I don't see them trading Covington and a first just to sign and trade for Whiteside. So I don't think that's very realistic. And then he has another one. Trade 2 says the Mavericks sign and trade for Hassan Whiteside, and the Blazers receive Tim Hardaway Jr. and a second-round pick. So I'm not going to go into exactly why, but in order for this to happen, the Mavericks would have to go to Hassan Whiteside in free agency and offer him at least around $16 million a year for 3 years. Now, the second and third years can be unguaranteed, but to sign and trade a contract, they have to be a 3-year contract at least. And in order for the Blazers to receive back Tim Hardaway Jr.'s roughly $20 million a year contract, they'd be having to trade around $16 million of salary out. So that is what the Mavericks would have to sign Hassan Whiteside for. The Dallas Mavericks are not going to go to Hassan Whiteside in free agency and offer him over $16 million a year. It's just not going to happen. So sign and trades don't really work like this. I like that you were trying to get creative, but Hassan Whiteside trades aren't really realistic. I honestly don't think anybody could come up with one Hassan Whiteside sign and trade where I was like, oh yeah, that team might go after him and we could potentially work a sign and trade out around that. So I'm not really on board with anything Hassan Whiteside wise. If you come up with some based around Hassan Whiteside sign and trade that I think is realistic, I will give you props to the end of time, because that is a big challenge. I don't think it's possible. Especially if you get Eric thinking, you know, maybe that has a small chance of happening, because Eric hates when you suggest sign and trades. So, you know, don't flood the comment section with the Hassan Whiteside sign and trades this week, because that'll definitely trigger Eric. Caleb Jackson says, CJ, Zach, Simons, 2 firsts and 2 seconds for Giannis. It would take more than this. It would take probably 4 first-round picks, CJ, Zach, Simons, Nasir, and Gary Trent Jr. Honestly, like, it would take all 4 of our main young prospects and probably 4 first-round picks in order to get Milwaukee to listen. Now, I still honestly do that if Giannis was willing to resign. That would be a big risk if you didn't know if Giannis was going to resign or not. But yeah, this package is not enough to get it done. The original Dizzy D says, who could we get back in a trade for Mario? He has no value whatsoever. Absolutely none. I assume he opts into his $1.9 million contract. He could maybe be salary filler in order to match salary in a trade. You know, if we're trading for a guy who's making like $17 million and Ariza's $12.8 million isn't quite enough to get the trade done, we could toss in Hezonja into that to match salary. So he could be useful in that way, actually, if he opts in. But in terms of him by himself, he has absolutely no value. Jack James says, this happens every year. Blazers fans talk about all these trades they should do, but none of those teams would do any of them. LMAO. Name a big-name player the Blazers traded for or signed in the last 20 years or even the entire history. Now, don't be a buzzkill, man. Don't be a buzzkill. Obviously, a lot of these trade ideas are not going to happen. But what's the fun in that? What's the fun in being like this? I don't get it. It's fun to talk trade ideas. It's fun to put together packages that could potentially work for both teams and both teams might like. That's fun. And it's not saying, oh, well, I'm going to put together this trade package and it should happen and I'll be surprised if it doesn't happen. It's not like that, right? We're not necessarily expecting every idea everybody comes up with to happen. It's just fun to come up with ideas. It's fun to talk trades. And I know a lot of the people that like these videos enjoy talking trades, and I enjoy talking trades. So why not do a video series around it? I just don't get this attitude. It doesn't make sense. It's kind of like a buzzkill attitude. So honestly, me and Eric have been pretty on point in terms of what other teams are looking for in return for some of their players. Now, a lot of those teams didn't trade those players to the Blazers. They traded those players to other teams. But we are pretty on point with what each player's trade value is that we're talking about. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to go out and get them, okay? But we're just going to have fun with these trade talk videos. That's the whole point of this, to entertain you guys, to have some fun, to talk basketball and talk trades. So that's what we're going to continue doing. Yeah. Coy Weller says, how about trading Ariza in the 16th pick for and maybe more assets for Kelly Oubre? I assume you mean Ariza in 16th pick and maybe like a young guy for Kelly Oubre. I wouldn't attach any of our young guys to Ariza in the 16th pick just to get Kelly Oubre. And honestly, Ariza was a disaster in Phoenix and they really wouldn't want a wing back. So you would probably have to sort out a 3-team trade if you wanted to use Ariza in the 16th pick in order to get Kelly Oubre. And I put this question right behind the next one because the next one actually has one. JJ LaFront sent me this on Twitter. I told him to post it on the YouTube comment section so I could address it. He says, Portland gets Kelly Oubre. Phoenix gets Derrick Rose and Luke Kennard. Meanwhile, Detroit gets Trevor Ariza, the 16th overall pick from Portland, the 10th overall pick from Phoenix, and Anthony Simons. And this is one of my favorite trade ideas in this video, not necessarily because I think it would happen, but because it does make sense for each team. You can make it make sense. I do see the logic in it for all teams involved, and it's a creative way for us to get Kelly Oubre without just sending Ariza in the 16th pick to Phoenix, so I applaud JJ on this one. Now let's break it down for each team. Portland is giving up Ariza, Anthony Simons, and the 16th overall pick. Now, I wouldn't do that. I think that's giving up a little bit too much for Kelly Oubre. I would try and get it done with Ariza, the 16th overall pick, and maybe a future second. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if the Blazers made this trade. Oubre, it would be interesting to see his fit here. I do think he has some question marks in terms of his three-point shooting and his defense. The big problem with Kelly Oubre is he's one of the worst off-ball defenders. On ball, he'll look good, so I think people kind of overrate his defense. Off the ball, from everything that I've read from Phoenix Suns fans, he is very CJ McCollum-esque when he's not guarding the ball. So I don't really want another bad off-ball defender on the court next to CJ McCollum. So I'm not really as on board with Kelly Oubre as a lot of other people are, but I see the intrigue, and at least I can understand why people are high on him compared to a guy like Aaron Gordon, who I just don't understand why people love him so much. But moving on to Phoenix, they get Derrick Rose and Luke Kennard. Now, Phoenix could be looking for a point guard, an upgrade over Ricky Rubio, and I think Derrick Rose would be just that. Luke Kennard is a young wing who can shoot the ball. They kind of have a logjam of wings and are kind of low on guards. This would kind of be moving that logjam from the wing area to the guard area, because you'd have Derrick Rose, Ricky Rubio, Devin Booker, and Luke Kennard all as guards. Maybe you'd play Devin Booker more at the 3 and run some small ball lineups with Booker at the 3, Kennard at the 2, and Derrick Rose at the 1. I think that could be a very offensively potent lineup. They do give up the 10th overall pick and Oubre for this. They definitely wouldn't do Oubre in the 10th pick for just Derrick Rose, but getting back Luke Kennard makes this make more sense for them. But honestly, I think they would rather have like a 4 instead of Luke Kennard. You know, if Detroit could trade Christian Wood, that guy would be perfect in Phoenix. But I know Detroit is super high on him, and Christian Wood is a free agent, so they can't even trade him. But overall, like, I see the logic. Phoenix would definitely rather have a point guard like a Derrick Rose than a guy like Trevor Ariza. So it definitely makes some sort of sense. And then for Detroit, moving off Rose and moving off Kennard, who they've been rumored to be looking to trade in the past, and getting back the 10th overall pick and the 16th overall pick and a guy like Anthony Simons for that package, that definitely would make sense for Detroit. I think they would do this. They're in rebuild mode, and that's a good package of rebuilding assets to get 2 top 16 overall picks and a guy like Simons. As I said, if I'm Portland, I'm trying to trade a second-round pick instead of Simons, but either way, I think that trade makes sense for Detroit. So to all you guys watching this, try and get this creative in the next week. Give me your best trade idea, because I think this is a good idea, even though I would lean no for Portland and would lean no for Phoenix as well. It's just a good idea because it does make some sort of logical sense for all teams involved. Rising Kurt Ritchie says, Portland needs a superstar power forward. Blake Griffin is in my mind, and this was a guy I loved all year last year, but honestly, he is injury prone. I was kind of arguing that last year. I wasn't saying he was necessarily injury prone last year. I said he had some injury issues, but they weren't big enough for me to think like, oh, he's definitely going to get hurt every year. But then he got hurt again. So honestly, at this point, like, he's injury prone. I don't think we could rely on him to be healthy when the playoffs come around. And that's the thing. If we trade for a star player, we need to be able to rely on them to be healthy. We saw all the injuries that happened last year. We don't need a guy to come in here who's always hurt at the end of the season. And honestly, when Griffin did play last year, he looked very, very bad. He did not look like the same Blake Griffin. So you have to wonder if age plus the injuries he's dealt with has kind of made his production fall off a cliff. I don't really know how good he is anymore, because the little bit that we saw of him last year, he was very, very bad. So I'm not ready to give up a bunch of value for him. Honestly, Detroit would probably just want to get off his contract. So, I mean, maybe that's a gamble you're willing to take. The problem is Portland can't match his contract because he's making like $30 million plus a year. And it'd be dumb for Portland to trade Dame, CJ, or Nurkic for him. They're not going to trade any 3 of those guys for him. So actually, I just looked up Blake Griffin's contract. He's making $34 million this year. So in order to match his salary, we'd have to trade out $28 million. You'd probably trade Ariza for him, which would be about $13 million. You still have to trade out an additional $15 million of contracts that aren't Dame, CJ, and Nurkic. That's not really possible. You'd have to throw Hood in there. We'd still be $9 million short, so then you'd have to throw Collins in there. And at that point, given Blake Griffin's injury problems and given his lack of production last year when he did play, I'm not trading Ariza, Hood, Collins, Little, Simons, and whatever else it would take in order to barely match his salary. So Blake Griffin isn't really an option this offseason. Now, at the trade deadline next year, he could be an option if we end up having more tradable contracts, say maybe whoever we sign with a mid-level exception package with Ariza, and maybe we use the traded player exception to trade for a guy like Bielitsa, maybe something like that you could package around Blake Griffin. I wouldn't want to do that unless Blake Griffin was healthy all year and kind of bounced back to the Blake Griffin he was before, but the Blake Griffin he was a couple years ago would be great for this team in my opinion. I think offensively, he was fantastic, a playmaker, could potentially help Dame out with some of the pressure that Dame faces. So I'm not completely against Blake Griffin. I don't think he's possible this offseason, but if he can kind of bounce back, then maybe that's a guy you can talk about at the trade deadline next year. Thomas Saransky has an intriguing 3-team trade. He says the Hawks get Evan Fournier, Aaron Gordon, a 2020 first from Orlando, and a 2022 top 8 protected first from Orlando, and a 2020 second from Orlando. Orlando gets Kevin Huerter, John Collins, Trevor Ariza, and a second round pick from Portland. Portland gets Johnathan Isaac and a 2021 second via Miami. So I'm going to break this down team by team. Atlanta would be trading out John Collins and Kevin Huerter for Evan Fournier, Aaron Gordon, and 2 future first-round picks as well as second. I don't really see the logic in here for Atlanta. The first-round picks are nice, and they could be useful if Atlanta is going to try to trade for a star in the next year, maybe like a Bradley Beal. But Evan Fournier is kind of who they're hoping Kevin Huerter can turn into. Aaron Gordon is a worse version of John Collins. Different players, obviously, but that's definitely a downgrade there. The only reason Atlanta would trade John Collins is because they don't want to pay him. So I don't really understand the logic of them taking on a $17 million contract from Evan Fournier, as well as a $18 million contract from Aaron Gordon, because they're taking on a lot of salary, and that kind of defeats the purpose of trading John Collins just so they don't have to pay him. They do get decent value back here, but it's just, it doesn't really make a ton of sense. I think you could potentially find some more intriguing and better trade packages for John Collins if you're Atlanta. That makes more sense for them. Orlando is trading out Fournier, Gordon, 2 future firsts, as well as Johnathan Isaac for Huerter, Collins, Ariza, and a 2020 second. I think this is way too much value for Orlando as well. Trading Johnathan Isaac, Fournier, Gordon, and 2 firsts for John Collins and then some role-playing wings, it's a little too much value. If you maybe took out the firsts, I could definitely see them doing it, but I just think this is too much value. I think this doesn't really work for Orlando. John Collins would be intriguing there. They would definitely be interested in him. The defense in that front court with Collins and Vucevic wouldn't be good, but Collins would be a guy I think they would have some interest in to try and take their team to the next level. I just don't think that they'd give up Fournier, Gordon, 2 firsts, and then Johnathan Isaac as well, because that's a ton of value to give up for them. And then Portland basically trades Ariza and a second for Johnathan Isaac and a second. If I'm Portland, I do this trade if they can find a replacement for Ariza in the starting lineup, because Johnathan Isaac is probably going to be out all year next year with an injury. So you do create a hole at the 3 because Johnathan Isaac can't fill that spot next year. But you do have the mid-level exception. Maybe you could go out and get a guy like Harkless or get a guy like Jay Crowder or somebody just to fill that 3 and D small forward role. If you could do that, I would do this trade, because once Johnathan Isaac comes back, if he could stay healthy and kind of tap into his potential, he could be a really, really good player, and I think he would be a really, really good fit at that starting 3, potential defensive player of the year type of player there. I love his long-term upside. I just hope that he can stay healthy. It's a shame that he's had to deal with all these knee and leg injuries. So if you're Portland and you're getting that level of upside, I know he's hurt, but his long-term potential is still very high, in my opinion. You're going to have to do more than basically trade Ariza for him, because Portland swaps seconds here, so those cancel out. It's basically trading Ariza for Johnathan Isaac. I think Portland would have to give up maybe a future first to Atlanta, and Orlando would keep one of their future firsts, and that would make the trade more balanced. It is an intriguing trade, though, so that wraps up your guys' trade comments, trade questions, trade ideas from the past week. Leave your ideas down below. As I said, I'm challenging you guys to get as creative as possible for Eric next week so he can break them down. I really enjoy what we're doing here with the mailbags as well as the Trade Talk Tuesday stuff. We will drop a Blazers Pulse episode in the next day or so. We'll drop a stream clip in the next day or so as well, so we're really cranking out the content for you guys. I hope you're enjoying it. So anyway, I'm out of here. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you later. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.